What the fuck are you doing? Huh? Hey, what the fuck is this? Hey. Oh, was the gate open or something? Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey. Hold on. Yeah, okay, I'm coming outside. Hold on, where's the other door?
Hey, is Zoom like even working for you? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to restart my computer because my network is like fine, but for some reason Zoom is like not launching. And as soon as I can launch it, I might have to go and let you kind of take over because one of my dogs just got out. So it's kind of like everything's like happening. I know it's kind of crazy. So yeah, I'm gonna try to. I'm trying to get this going as soon as I can. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right, man. Bye. On a second. Yeah.
Yeah, one sec. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna get the intro slides going, but can't seem to get them. So,
I can pull them up. That's
oh
cool.
yeah, go ahead and if you have them ready, go ahead and do that. It's
Yeah.
acting funny on mine.
Sounds good. Cool. Can
Welcome,
everyone see them? Yeah. Let's see here. Full screen mode if it works. No, that won't work. Oh, yeah, it did. Okay, good. So welcome to Space Lab. And we have Dom, and then Kyle is here, organizer, and I'm Lisa Woods. And if you have just joining or you haven't attended this meetup before, we're a meetup for those interested in creating new and activating existing spaces. And what we mean by spaces, we mean that really broadly. That could be immersive art, public art, exhibits, live workspaces, intentional communities, and much more. On the left, you'll see our last presenters, the White Void from Berlin. That was an amazing talk. Hopefully you had a chance to attend that one. I'd like to, just ask you to support Space Lab. We have a suggested $10 donation, which you can Venmo to Psychojelly, which is Dom's Venmo account. And the money is used to fund Data Geek Scholarship Program. And Kyle, can you talk briefly about Data Geek? I have a slide about the scholarship program, but just to introduce Data Geek for those who are not familiar.
Yeah, of course. So Data Geek is a organization that is based in Austin, Texas. It is an arts education organization, nonprofit. We teach classes in the intersection of art and technology. And we have we're on a quarter-based system, so we have a quarter that is up right now that you can check out all of our new classes coming up, all of these online classes. And we have a brand new expanded scholarship program that we have multiple opportunities for students to get hands-on connections with art and technology classes, even full-ride scholarships, partially paid scholarships, technology support, and all that good stuff. So yeah, if you have the means to help out, a little bit goes a long way with Data Geek with the scholarship program. So yeah, you can find out more about Data Geek at datageek.com, D-A-D-A geek.com.
Awesome, thank you. Also wanted to point out, another way to support us is just share this event with friends who might be interested. We'd love to have more people join the conversation and join the network and talk about this amazing artwork. All right, Dom, I'm gonna hand it off to you here.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Josue, for
hey, hi.
Yeah, it's really great that you're here. I really love the Cocolab stuff that you guys have been doing, and it's nuts. You guys have been around for so long.
Yeah.
I wanted to see, could you tell us a little bit about how you guys got started?
Yes, actually, I do have a presentation. I can share it with you if you want to.
Yeah.
So let me just share my screen right now. Hello to everyone. I guess right now, right? So first of all, so we are based in Mexico City, and being in Mexico City, that's a huge and big responsibility since we are a huge city of 20.16 million people. So we're in the top number 5, and being in the top number 5, somehow it's kind of important because you know, there's so many people here. And somehow we have to think big. So most of the experience that we do, they have to be for a lot of people at the same time. And you know, like being in a city of 25 million people, I mean, you can do things like this. You can easily broke the record Guinness of most people on the street. Like guys don't know, like we hold the record Guinness for most people dance thriller on the street. Because I mean, like that's how it looks like when people, agreeing to something and they just go in the street and start to do some stuff together. And that's kind of like the energy flow that we are holding in the city with so many cultures. So I mean, and because we're in a big city, we like Cocolab, it's I mean, talking, I mean, even after COVID, we still a lot of people. Like before COVID, we were around 100 and something, like 120 people in the space. Right now we're about 90. So we were kind of hit by the COVID, but lucky for us, we had some previous contracts. Most of our projects, they tend to be like very long, like for a year, 6 months, 2 years. So they're not short projects. So that's kind of like very kind of like interesting thing that we do. So most of the stuff that we do, this is how our project looks currently. So 1% for projects currently, they are like wait, because I don't see my mouse and I wanted to see what I'm going to show you here. Yes, 1% of our projects, there are 9% of our projects are installations. Most of the stuff that you see online from the stuff that I'm going to show you, they are based on art. And that's kind of like our innovation part of the studio. 10% of our work are shows, and 80% they are cultural immersive experiences, which I'm going to tell you in a little bit what it means that. And 1% of the projects that are commercial projects. So we kind of barely don't have any commercial projects. Like we don't do much stuff for brands. And you probably were asking like, how do you guys survive? Like, how do you guys, there are so many people doing all this kind of stuff, but not doing commercial stuff. And I'm going to tell you a little bit what changing in our current view. So instead of having just private clients, that's kind of our path. Right now we are making a new model where you are our client. That's kind of our future. So we're not there yet. We're going to be there yet. We're going to be there in a couple of years or in a year. We hope so. But that's what we're thinking to do. So one of the experiences that we're testing at the moment is about a Mexican artist called Frida Kahlo. So the thing that you're seeing was kind of like a test in our offices where we're testing how to build immersive experiences using our own culture as a powerful, like source of provide us with enough art and enough kind of like content to give it context for the audience, like to bring the past to the present to a new format. And the ability that this technology gave us now is helping us to do that with our past. So I wanted to explain you a little bit more about our purpose and the things that we do. So we kind of think that we exist to inspire people. So most of the experience creating, we want to inspire people, and that's kind of like our purpose in life. That's what we wanted to do. So let me talk to you a little bit more about inspiration, like how we see inspiration. Like, so let's think a little bit more about inspiration for us. Or if you think for a moment, like when you think about something that inspires you, it's something that kind of like freezes you on time. I don't know, like when you see an image on Instagram, when you scroll down content, when you see that part of the content, somehow you're kind of like frozen on time. You're kind of like seeing all these kind of something that makes you breathe, makes you kind of makes you feel inspired. So inspiration can they don't got extinct. For example, like when you're having a toothpaste, like, and then you're brushing your teeth, like you wish you never, that toothpaste never ends, like keeps continue giving you toothpaste. And when you're in a holidays, like those holidays never ends. And when you're in the bathroom, that the toilet paper never ends. So that's kind of like the way we see inspiration. Like we see like something that we can use and never kind of like ends. And we always ask ourselves two things. Like we always ask ourselves, like, what are the things that inspire us, and why those things inspire us? And specifically talking about inspiration, like for us, our principal source of inspiration is our own culture, and that's what we use when we kind of like do these kind of experiences. As you saw early in the reference that I show you about this painter. So we're using our own culture as a source for making new work, and somehow it's old because we're using old kind of a culture. But some of the big projects that we have been implementing and doing in the past, like we're working in these ancient pyramids and ancient sites from Mexico, because we're not only making projection and making all these kind of new installations into the space, but we're kind of driving a new type of economy into these spaces, because it's not only about the experience, about being there, but there are families right now that there's new economy with families that it's living out of making this experience real. Like there are more tourists that just go by night into this place that's supposed to be a day experience, and right now we have this night experience where it's driving more tourists into the space. In consequence, they are putting more families into work, and they're driving a new economy for those spaces. And right now we're working into new archaeological sites, and we're making all of the experience about how a person should like walk into these sites and make them feel like they were in the past, and make them feel like how they were supposed to be. Are you following me? Because I don't really see you, but
Oh yeah, this is
you're following. Let me know if I got caught or something. So we don't invent nothing new. So we just kind of like use our resources that we have at our own disposal. And I'm going to show you something that I really think that's kind of like the biggest event in Mexico City. And I always put this example because for me it's like the best example to put it, what is the greatest invention of Mexico City. So I wanted to meet the most revolutionary invention of this century in Mexico City. This is something crazy because it's changing families right now. It's changing the economy in the city. So this thing that you see here, it's the torta de chilaquiles. So that's kind of like the biggest invention of the city, of the space that is not, I mean, is using the actual resources that exist there. So they're using the same tortilla, but it's fried. Salsa, cream, beans, onions, bread, fried chicken, cheese, same thing that already exists, but they're making something incredible new, and people tend to wait until 45 minutes just to put their hands in one of those torta de chilaquiles. So that's kind of like interesting because it's kind of like the same resources that we have available, and something that we always think like, what it makes something new as well. Like when you think about some stuff new, I mean, the kind of like have those three things, and one of those things are like, it's kind of like based on good ingredients. Like you have all this bread, fried tortilla, like everything that you, and the tools where the thing that you use to cook all of those ingredients. But a good concept in this kind of concept that I show you, like it's kind of like a portable lunch that you can take anywhere, and it's kind of very good for having it. That's kind of like make something new. And I wanted to show you one of our projects, using all of these kind of thinking and perspectives. And this specific project, it has something more powerful and meaningful because we're taking all of those concepts into another level. And again, we're not using anything old, anything anything. We're not using. Sorry, we're not using anything new. We're using stuff that is already being new. And when you think about Mexico City and Mexico in general, there's a lot of contrast, right? Like they are spaces when there's like a single street, and they can divide that, like poor areas between rich areas. So there's a huge contrast between rich and poor, and also between the violence that exists, and that's kind of part of our reality. And one of the things that I wanted to show you with you is like this project that we haven't done in collaboration with one of our friends, which is called Pedro Reyes. Like he had this friend in the Mexican army, and he was asking him if he can use that our weapons or guns that were like taken from the drug cartels to use them into their artwork. And they say like, yeah, sure, of course, like we're taking all these guns, so and I want you to use that guns for your artwork. And he took those guns, and he was taking out the sound out of it. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Can you hear that? Yes?
Yeah, I can hear
No?
it. I can hear it.
Wait. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, for example, they're taking the sound out of they're using, like all of the guns that previously were, like thrown away to create guitars, to create clothes, to create new kind of instruments. And somehow we were working with Pedro in this new project to make another kind of a different project, which is called Disarm. And Disarm, it's kind of like kind of a project which uses all of these weapons again, but it's kind of like in a form of a robotic band. So what you're seeing here is just a project that it's kind of like the combination of the good ingredients, tools, and concepts, and then we're creating all this band created from all of the weapons that were that used to belong to the drug cartels. So when those weapons arrived into offices, they were in different colors, and golden weapons, silver weapons. They were like like somehow we were making like an exorcism to those weapons, because when you see this installation, it kind of makes you smile. Like you think like, oh wow, that's not what the weapon's meant to be. Like you're changing and something that it's meant to destroy to make life, to make joy. You're changing the polarity of these things right now. So that's kind of like the way we're trying to approach into the stuff that we do. And we kind of like do very deep into our concepts. Like, oh, sorry, there is Siri right here activating. So let me just turn this off. wait. Whoa. Ah. Sorry about that.
Oh, when technology takes
I'm
over.
stuck in this, not able to click here. Wait. Sorry about that,
like
but
poetry.
I'm just, whoa. It doesn't let me go out. I'm just going to go out. Whoa. Damn.
Oh, this is funny.
Whoa.
I've been at a presentation
It's because
once.
I have like the Zoom in front, and it doesn't let me go out. So.
Oh, so you can't get to it to close it.
Okay. Yes, I think I can, and now I'm going. I'm able to do it. So wait a second. So yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, because I can hear you. Somehow I can hear you, but okay. So I'm just going to continue because I can hear you. Sorry about that. So let me just tell you a little bit. Like we go very deep into our concepts, and all of those concepts, they end into multimedia experiences. And the things that we do when we design, we always define our limits. Like yesterday, we were talking with a client in they were saying like, hey, you guys are, I can tell you're creatives, but we only, we don't know how to approach with you guys because you probably have a special methodology, and our methodology, it's very basic. Like we kind of like define our limits. When you think about an idea, this idea can be, like jumping around, being in your head. The moment you put a limit into that idea, it kind of becomes more creative. Like the moment you create that idea, with boundaries, it becomes very powerful. It becomes something that it's more kind of like deep in the way we do. Like think about for a second with Instagram or with Twitter, like people tend to be very highly creative with only, a frame of an image or 140 characters. Like the most you have limits, the most creative you become. And those, when we take that philosophy with thinking about limits into explore some stuff. So the stuff that we're going to show you, that I'm going to show you right now, it's just only concepts. It's not projects. It's just concept. Like, for example, like what about what we do is magical, and then we can think about something magical. I don't know if you've seen this dark Netflix series with what is this, the sphere, and he's searching. So we're taking this concept of the dark sphere, so we implement some technology to make it, in the real world. So the video that you're seeing here is like a version of using the same device.
Did we freeze out? Looks like we're paused here for a second. I don't know.
I think we froze out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, it was ramping up in the.
Especially now, what he was showing us looks tremendously cool. I can't wait to see the rest of this.
Yeah, well, let's get him back in. Let's see, make sure we can connect back in. Zoom's been crazy.
Zoom has been having some problems the last couple days.
Just so happens every single school in the country wants to use Zoom right now. Let's see.
Thank you to everyone that's here and joining us, though. And thanks to everyone who's watching us on the live stream.
Yeah.
Howdy, everyone.
Hope everybody's having a good Wednesday. Let's see.
That was pretty good, Kyle. Were you a disc jockey in a former life? You held it.
Sure. Yes.
Yes.
I would like to say that I was.
Oh, Kyle, I didn't know I could unmute. It's
Oh,
good to see
hey, what's up, Harvey? How you doing, man?
you. Yo, I'm doing well. It's
Yeah.
been some years.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, great to see you. I didn't know you were involved in all of this. Dom just invited.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 30 minutes ago. I was like, hey, dude, you should jump in.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's good to see you.
Harvey,
Have to catch up sometime.
Harvey, the last time I saw you was at Mutech.
That's right, San Francisco. You had a CRT screen on your shoulder,
Yep.
and
That
you
one.
were performing in front of a crowd,
Yes.
which I think you started back 10 years ago when we met at SAIC
Yeah.
in real-time class, which was
Mhm.
kind of like a pivotal moment for both of us.
I know, right?
But yeah, no, good times, man. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's good seeing you.
Maybe, while we're waiting for him to check back in, someone could tell me about the group. I know this is,
Oh, yeah.
Dom was just,
Yeah.
I missed the intro. I don't mean to repeat
Yeah, so
yourself.
Space Lab it's an Austin-based group where it used to be the interactive installation meetup group. And then it took a bit of a pause, and then we ramped it back up this year. So we've been doing a lot more presentations. And since like everybody's got to stay at home, we figured we'd do a little bit more international and less local artists to talk. So yeah, it's been,
Cool.
it's been like a monthly thing. We brought in
Oh, that's nice.
month, and yeah, it's been really cool to see everybody jumping in.
Do you record the streams?
Yeah, Kyle's been managing it.
Oh, dope. All right,
Yeah,
I'll check in
it's-
with Kyle about that.
Yeah, it's going out to Facebook and YouTube right now. So it's live. It's going. So but yeah, no, Zoom already crashed on me just earlier as well in the middle of the stream. So something's going on with Zoom right now for sure.
I checked the hotspot. There's like a heat map you can see online, and it's you can see all the hot spots going crazy.
Oh wow,
Yeah, there he is.
awesome.
Yay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we
Yay.
internet blockout, and I'm with my mobile here, so sorry about that.
No, it's good.
That's good,
We're
man.
glad you're back.
Yeah, I don't know where I was before.
You had the
You're
light
showing
over.
us the dark.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Do you want me to continue? Do you want to talk more? Do you want to have more questions?
I really want to see that piece. That looked amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, yeah. So let me just share with you, and I continue. I promise we're gonna be cool right now. I hope so, but yes. But yeah, I mean, like we're just using like some stuff that already exists. Like the technology is not something, you know, like it doesn't exist. It's already there. All these kind of wireless stuff, show control stuff, making with all the tools that exist. It's something we use in research, like, and then we kind of like define what boundary is saying, like, what if it is immersive? And this is kind of like a tracking ball in the space, making some testing about making some kind of like an immersive where people could control this kind of light bulb in a big space, and they can become the joystick of the space. So all of the things that you're seeing here, they're not projects, they're just like concepts, and we're just testing all of these concepts. And for example, like one of the projects that we kind of been known for a while, and it's been kind of reproduced a lot in the industry, and that's kind of like we're very happy about that, is this project from 2014, which is called White Canvas, which is a light room with like more than 400 light beams. And that was our Pinterest back then. Like we didn't use Pinterest as reference because it didn't exist as it exists today to look into references and to, you know, kind of understand what it looked like. So we kind of like sketch all of our process and experiments. And this project like kind of like become really kind of like popular on the network, on the social media, because what was one of those first experiences where you kind of like we're using very simple materials to create a bit more like immersive room. And we were kind of like working with musicians, and they were like reproducing nature scenes, musical scenes, and we were making kind of like new approaches with light. And speaking about limits, which was the thing that I was telling you before. So limits somehow allows us to create kind of like the piece, because we only had a big space, and it was huge. We have to fill it out, and the other limit, it was like we only kind of like had this light beam and was coming only on white, and we didn't have any color. So we just called it White Canvas because that was our limit. That was our budget for making this installation, to be able to use this kind of installation only in pure light, white light. And after the installation, they become a lot of more, you know, like installations in the years to come. And we're kind of very, very proud to kind of push as well forward how people it's also using this installation as a reference to make new work and new experimentation as well with this kind of light art. And speaking a bit more about our methodology, I want to share with you really quickly, like, how do we do stuff? Like, what's our approach in stuff? Like, we always try to deliver one message, and that's kind of like our basics of what we do. So it's funny because when you work with a client, they always want to give you kind of like a big kind of document, and I want you to communicate this to the audience. And it's kind of like at the beginning, it's hard to let them know that we don't want to do that, and we kind of like enter into a process to convince the client to tell him like that's not the right thing to do. And after that, after we do that, we can, be able to work with that client, and that's kind of like a process. It's kind of like the most stressing and hard part of a project. And I'm going to show you an example. Like, so when you, for example, like work with messages, people tend to, lost in a lot of messages at the same time. So I'm going to put you an example. Like I found this example in the internet. Like there is this site on the internet that says like, keep your visitors engaged for longer. By creating truly memorable, immersive, and engaging experiences, a touchscreen can ensure they have an enjoyable visit, stick around for longer, and come back for more. And you're letting a touchscreen to all the responsibility for your audience to come back to your experience. And also there's so many contents there, I don't know if you have this experience, like people who develop multimedia content, somehow it's hard to create content for an experience, for a multimedia experience, because the time that you take for develop this experience, it's so long. Like I'm going to show you an example. Like there are two variables. One variable is like the cost, and the other variable is the time of development. So in one side, it's more like high in cost and more, longer in time. So when you tend to develop experiences with multiple messages, somehow they are located right there. Like, they tend to be in a higher cost because you have to, hire more people. You have to, come up with a lot of time of development. When you work in experiences with only one message for your audience, tend to be a bit because you're just focusing what you want them to, the audience to experience. And the same part, I think, happened with the part of engagement. So I don't know if you notice, but right now, the things that I notice in the exhibitions or in the multimedia experience, when people tend to, use these kind of like methodologies for, letting all the experience to a touchscreen, they are kind of like, they put less effort in trying to be involved in the content. And also it's not fun. Like they just go there, and probably as a developer, you spend probably as a month developing this touchscreen with all of the content. And the people probably spend like 1 second to touch, and then he left the experience and he didn't have any kind of experience, versus experiences that have one message, which tend to be a bit more fun and more engagement. And I want you to put an example about this with an actual project. So when we kind of like receive an idea of a project, they give us this, like they give us like a white canvas again, like nothing, like something that it's kind of like open with nothing there. And for this specific project is like an exhibition about the energy. So there is this new museum that they want to do an exhibition about energy. And after they give us this this exhibition, like we work in the message. So I mean, for part of the project, like energy is in constant transformation, we have to kind of like yes.
Can you go back
Yes.
one sentence?
So
I don't know. Yeah, I think you dropped out, so I wanted to make sure that everybody got that last sentence of what you said.
Yeah, so basically that was kind of like the one message that we worked for this exhibition. So energy is in constant transformation. And based on that message, when we kind of like, I mean, getting into that single message is very complicated and it took a lot of effort. And for example, like the work in our process, the way we work, like we kind of like use all of these models and we kind of go back to the basics. Like we don't use technology right away. So basically we work, with our hands a lot. like in a very kind of architectural way. So kind of like we explore like the plasticity of all of these materials, the space, the sizes. Like we tend to kind of like, you know, like experiment, explore, and then we kind of like jump into more about iterations about how we can explain the idea of the energy transforming and moving. Maybe we could, you know, create the space that could, you know, have this floating energy inside. And then we can create the idea of the energy that is floating and moving with light and all these transparent canvases. But again, we're just still kind of thinking about how we're going to explain that. And after we do that, like we start making and building kind of references of sculpting physical stuff that kind of got together with the digital world. Like in this case, like we're building like a torus as a sculpture representing the transformation of the energy and the moving of the energy, or a sphere as a representation of the earth or of the atom that's also like moving in the energy, or a transformer, which is a representation how humans transform the energy in the actual world. And then we start to build all of this stuff. Like we always think like creating physical stuff into the space and not make it 100% digital, add something very interesting. So as you can see, the space is huge. The way we have to build stuff, it's huge. Like this is kind of like another part of the process where you test a lot of the technology that we're going to use, and then we kind of like scale all of the models, scaling this model right now, because we just jump into for being in a small scale into a bigger scale, so we can start to explore more about the space. And as you can hear, we're kind of like taking all into the actual, you know, project. So this is kind of more like a finished type of project. So we're trying to deliver this message, the message of how we can create the idea of people becoming the energy, how people can be able to transform the energy. And we use the idea of using a city as a representation of how the cells nowadays. So we're kind of using a different type of interaction. As you can see in this picture, this kind of like a rounded circle, it has a lot of technology in it. So we're using a bracelet to capture the energy from the people of movements into the space. So those are early concepts we're using, how we can translate from the people to energy. So they are someone that is in front of the screen, and they're moving and they're becoming the wind, and they're, you know, processing the energy. And as you can see in the right side, they have this kind of like energy bar where they're collecting the energy, and you know, these other concept as well. You know, they become in water, and they're, you know, creating the water to become energy. And I'm going to show you. This is kind of like a more kind of like a more advanced process where people are, you know, becoming fire. They are creating energy with their movements, and they're using the bracelet, as you can see in the video, to collect that energy, to grab that energy into their selves. And then they're putting this energy in transformation there, and they're putting the energy into the media that it's in the. So they're kind of like these kind of interactions that we're doing to create all of these kind of ways to people to create interactions at the same time. Probably lost for a moment, but I'm back. So that's kind of like this is more advanced stage process in the experience, where we're seeing how people are exploring the space, how people are, you know, like all of this kind of transformation of the energy. And then we have like the beginning of the Big Bang. So the Big Bang is this big explosion, which is created about the energy moving in the space, energy transforming. Then as you you saw all of the references that we were using. So we have these one canvases that they were creating all these floating galaxies in space, and we're creating all these kind of elements like water, air, this kind of, and after we're like showing this to you, they're using interaction to get involved more into experience about how they can transport the energy and how the energy is being transported using their bodies, using their bracelets to collect the energy, driving this energy, taking from one part to the other part. And there's so many technologies involved in this, to get into this stuff that we're calling some robotic canvases that moves by them automatically. We're creating a lot of technology to drive a lot of those things, and basically, so part of our creative process as a kind of like a resume that I wanted to share with you is like, how do we come up with good concepts? So basically, coming up with good concept, it doesn't start by looking at Pinterest. Like, it doesn't start by looking references. Part of the way we use this type of methodology is kind of like we kind of like hacking our creative processes, and we're kind of like nerds into the way we approach into hack our creative process. And I'm going to share with you kind of like a very kind of like synthesis of how we do it. And the best way I explain this is by using a process by a friend, which is called Alejandro Masferrer. And the first part that we do, it's as you can see, this circle kind of for us represents the gathering. It represents, we kind of like gather together to discuss idea. We put us in a circle, and after we gather, we defined limits. So we put the limits. So it's kind of like this shape that we are defining the limits. And after we define these limits, we explore that ideas. We open ourselves to get references, look for the stuff that we're looking in the internet, and we filter, the best ideas, the best concepts, the best stuff that we want to do. And at the end, we execute, like the stuff that we're doing. And like looking at Pinterest as some of us, like, because I'm also I also been doing that for a while. It's here, like looking at Pinterest kind of like goes here, like and this is kind of very strict into our process. Like, we run all of our process as we see it, and looking at references, as so many people tend to do, it's right there for in our personal view of how we do stuff. And yeah, and some kind of like designing immersive experiences for others. Somehow you have to question your purpose. You have to select one message, and you have to be aware of your own process.
Sorry, I had a question. I didn't quite follow what the gather meant.
Yeah. So gather for us is like putting together with more people at the same room, discuss that idea. Like talking by the first time into an open circle. Like, you're not defining, you're not getting to nothing yet. You're just open about a concept. You're just talking. I'm gonna put you this reference.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah. So basically, that's how we do it. And those symbols, you can also change it as well. Like, you can combine them. For example, if you're going to have a meeting one day, probably you're going to have a circle meeting. And that meeting, you want them to define stuff. And then you're going to have a circle with a defined, because you probably end up with some agreements with the audience that you're having that meeting. But possibly you're going to execute some of those ideas soon. You don't need to use all of this process and methodology. You can combine all of those symbols. And that's kind of like the very interesting stuff about using this methodology. So you can hack them. You can combine them and making very different kind of processes, and run those processes for making all these ideas. So yeah, so that's kind of like the end of my talk, and I hope it makes sense for some of you, and I'm very sorry about my English because it's not that good, but
That's
but
been
I don't know if some of the stuff that I share make any sense, or
It's
it
been
brings
awesome.
a lot of
Yeah.
something, or somehow I don't know if you had more questions or anything. Please feel free to ask them.
Yeah, we'll open up. If anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in, or if you want to throw them in the chat, go right ahead. And if you're on Facebook, I guess we can see if we can. I guess if you comment, we can read them out.
I'll go ahead and jump to the question. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that I had one where, like, looking at your portfolio, and I guess when I first encountered y'all, I was working at a company called Meow Wolf, and y'all had a kind of a deal set up to work with them. That's kind of when I first encountered your work. And it seemed like at that point, a lot of what you were doing was like very heavily focused on projection mapping. And now kind of seeing your portfolio evolving 2 years later, it seems like a lot more kind of like construction of like physical objects, like that kind of blowing fans project has kind of entered into what you do. And I kind of wondered if you could talk a little bit about how that whole process evolved.
Yeah, so main, for example, like that you mentioned, that's kind of like a company that hired to us to offer one shop that can deliver you a lot of the experience together. So let me put you an example. So I'm going to share with you again something really interesting, because I'm going to show you the way we work in digital world. Okay, the way we kind of like work together in a COVID era. So right now we were doing this before COVID, but right now everyone is in their house. Somehow it's really useful for us because it makes us rethink the way we work again. So I don't know if you see my screen right now. Yes, you're seeing my screen, right?
Yeah.
So even when we're working for a client, let's say you work for forever, so kind of like work a lot in a very deep, as I show you in the concepts. So what you're seeing here, it's in Spanish, of course. So we're working a new concept of making some kind of experience for kids. And then we're trying to, you know, like get deep a little bit more about the concept of working with nature and kids, and how we can be able to create a more conscious experience for kids using technology and using different references. And then, you know, like kind of like have a bit more kind of like similar methodology to cinema somehow, because the work that we do as designers, multimedia designers, it's kind of new. Like, for example, cinema and radio, they have hundreds of years already in develop, right? But the work that we do, kind of like new in a way, it's teaching different technologies at the same time. So the more similar process, it's kind of like cinema, where people can at the same time they kind of like make the references. If you want to design an experience, probably you might be able to design, you know, step by step by touch point, what this person is going to do when they buy a ticket, for example, when they show like a card, or when they have an application for that. So we're kind of like designing all of the phases, like when people arrive into the experience, they take out their shoes or not? Do they watch a film when they once they arrive there? Is there something that they, you know, the people that they receive to them, and, you know, like so on. And I'm going to show you a bit more like how it looks a project when there is like in a more advanced concept. So all of this that you're seeing, it's like we're seeing different teams working at the same time, working different deliverables for the same project. So you can see here there are some publics for the same project, but kind of like we're kind of like creating all of these kind of documents that they are just design documents, and those documents tells you a lot of the experience. Not only, you know, the projection mapping, it tells you a lot about the materials. It tells you a little bit more about the fabrication, about how those materials should look, how those materials should have. No, we're downloaded the document because it's a huge document. But just to give you an idea of how we work, so this is how we work. Like we work very in so many details. So from the fabrication to the end experience. And I think as a complete studio, so we have to be responsible for the whole experience. Even from the moment I mean, we want to make responsible from the experience even when you buy a ticket. So we're trying to get into that now. That's kind of like the new economy that we're trying to do. So in our future, as I was saying before, one of our near future that we want to take care of all of the experience from the moment you probably go into a website and want to experience that. I don't know.
So what's that last sentence again?
We missed that last sentence.
I don't know if it makes sense what I'm doing. So we're kind of like, we're a company that in terms of design, we have to take care in all of the environment, because it's not about the technology, it's about the experience. And we want to make sure that the people have, the correct experience from the moment they, become immersed into that. And immersed into that for us is not just about entering into the space. It's, there is kind of like a phase where we call it like the pre-experience phase. Probably with the parking lot. The parking lot is an experience. Like, does it have a sound or not? Do they hear voices or not? Like, that's the whole experience. And after, like, are you gonna end the experience just by building an immersive room, or what do you want them to give something to, be able to activate something when they arrive home? Because for us, that's kind of like the way people will become more kind of like not engaged, but kind of like we're trying to do more experience that kind of like extend, not just like have that moment of happiness, but extend and make them come back, or make them tell someone or a friend to say, hey, have you seen it? This is crazy. You should go.
Yeah, that's awesome. That reminds me of, like, you kind of have to, you can't, it's not like a movie theater where you buy the ticket and you just go into the theater and you get the story, because you have to almost prepare somebody's mind for what they're about to go into as far as a narrative. And there's so many things between the parking lot and them going to that environment that could change the way they experience that thing. So you guys, by making sure the parking lot and then making sure the lobby and everything works in that way, to make sure when they get to that story, it wasn't just about the story, but it was about how they got there.
Totally. Well, I don't know if I was too fast, and I'm really sorry about my connection problems and issues, but
No, it's all this stuff is super awesome. The amount of dense information that you're giving us about how you go through about a creative process, not just through the technology and materials, but through the figuring out of the actual idea, making sure that idea is pure.
I think the technology is gonna help you, but it's not gonna help you. At the end, you need to give them because the thing that is going to make you become more innovative in a way, the thing that is going to make you more new. What I was saying, like, it's not the technology. It's not which technology to communicate that message to your audience, and then.
Can you repeat that last sentence? Sorry.
how do you are going to communicate that message to your audience? And this in the how are you going to communicate that message? Then you kind of like will be thinking about the technology, but not not before. So when you're thinking about, okay, I need them to communicate this because that's the message that I want to deliver. That when you become more creative, because you kind of put yourself into a more kind of like moment where you're trying to achieve something that seems to be impossible, And then with the technology, you making things that seems to be impossible possible because you're making magic in a way.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that because I think right now we live in an era where technology is changing so quickly, and it's super accessible, way more accessible than it was before. So it's really easy to like see something new and then want to go chase after that new thing, but forget that like even if you master that tool, you still have to know how to like what to use it right on and where it fits, or else you're just going to, yeah, you're going to try to use a hammer for everything, I guess.
Correct. Yes. Well, I don't know if anyone has more questions.
Lisa had a question. She was curious, how do the cultural inspirations, or do you want to ask it? I guess you're
I'm
on.
in a noisy environment. Go ahead.
How do the cultural inspirations you use, how are they received differently by Mexican audiences and international audiences?
So you're saying like our experiences?
Yeah, how the if you're the cultural inspirations, like is there how do you guys prepare for like I guess cultural differences in what the story you're telling, or do you plan for that in certain ways? Is that correct, Lisa?
Yeah, just the sense that, sometimes your own culture can seem very familiar to you, right? But if you take that to the United States or take that to France or somewhere else, it'd be kind of a very different reception. So I was just curious because you do seem to use a lot of like Mexican and ancient cultural references and images in the work.
So, depending on what we're doing. So we're doing an art installation. So, for example, like for South by Southwest, we were commissioned to do an art installation, and we were inspired by the Mexican, weaving. How they make these kind of weaving. So we make some light art strings of weaving. So we're trying to make a narrative which become abstract. And somehow we kind of try to make a little bit more of how do you call, like tint into or reference into Mexican culture. But when we're working for art, tend to be a bit more abstract. And when we're working with actual culture, like say for like archaeological sites or ancient sites, we tend to be more kind of a collaboration with historians, because we don't want to tell a lie. We want to communicate history into a very different way. So that's kind of like the two approaches. One, it's art, which is a bit more abstract and seems to be so we're using the technology to create all of this kind of new immersion with art and technology, and then we're using all this narrative part when we're using a bit more solid way of communicating our culture.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I have one. I want to save it.
Sure. You want to go ahead, Dom, or should I go ahead and ask?
Go ahead, man.
Okay, so one of the things I was struck by, you were talking about how you try to narrow it down to one message. And I was struck by how a simple message could still have a very complex manifestation. And so the question that I have is, it seems to me that by having one message, even though you might have many different aspects to that one message, gives everything a coherence. Whereas maybe if you have multiple messages, there wouldn't be that sort of coherence. People would be lost. So my question is twofold. Is that correct in any degree? And also, are there other reasons why you just want to have a single message?
Yeah, no, that's totally correct. I think you totally got it correct. After that single message, you can, build different type of sub messages, let's call it, but they are aligned. They kind of like point into the same stuff. Like, and we always make that test. Like, if someone is gonna make an interview at the end of your experience, and they kind of put a microphone in their mouth, and they ask them, "Hey, what was the experience like? How do you feel like? Like, what do you want that person to respond into the interview? You know, so that's kind of like if that person responds, yeah, I feel like I was making energy, or I feel like I was, you know, like immersed into, or I feel like I was like an Aztec, like, you know, for call it that way. So that's kind of like, that's when you feel like you did it right. So you have to going to interview randomly someone in your experience. What do you want them to respond to that question?
Thanks. And the only other thing I want to say is thank you very much for your generosity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? I had one, and it's a kind of hard, it might be a hard one because you've been doing a lot of awesome talks kind of like this with other artist groups around the world. And I've been watching them. They've been amazing. They're called C19, and you guys should definitely check them out. You're doing one with Rafiq Anadol tomorrow, right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, we're doing one tomorrow. It's 9 a.m. LA time.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I was curious. I was curious what the what's been one of the most like mind-blowing like things that somebody has said like in one of those talks. For me, like I was watching the one with Team Lab, and that was one where it was kind of, that was very enlightening as far as just like the answer and the question, is the difference between art and design. And that was a really, really awesome moment that I took from that. And I was curious if you had one as well.
Oh, sorry, can you repeat that? I lost you.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. What was one of the most aha, like inspirational moments in
Talks?
Yeah, in your talks?
With our industry, I think, I mean, it's funny because we share a lot of philosophy similar with Moment Factory, and we also kind of like as well with Team Lab, of course, because you know, when they're talking about their own Japanese culture, it's kind of like similar what we're trying to do as well. Like they're trying to, you know, put them own culture into their own kind of like digital art way of seeing stuff, and kind of like was very impressive for us, like seeing like this concept of like an infinite way of knowledge, that it's there, exists, you can use them, you know, like, you know, you should look at it, because in our case, in our culture, we have painters, we have artists, we have all this Asian stuff. We could use it right now, and nobody is using it right now. We can do it, and then we can create like art. We can create immersion. We can create some stuff. People will be there for sure, because it's kind of like a something that exists in their minds. It's kind of like something that people feels like secure in a way. Like it's a known paradigm. It's something that it's known, so it's there. You just have to put a different format to see it. And as I said before, like cinema, it's been for a while. Ourselves, the way that the stuff that we do, multimedia stuff, is new. Like the ability of computers to render content in high quality, to create projections at the same time, it's just a couple of years. It doesn't have 10 years. Like the ability to create all this multi-projection stuff that we're seeing right now, it's just for a few years ago. It doesn't, I mean, it's not old. So it's a new kind of like, so probably if we had this talk in 50 years, could be different. Like probably it's already been set. So we have the ability to reshape what's going to come. So we have the ability to reshape the new multimedia experiences, how they're going to become in the future.
Yeah, I can totally, yeah, I totally see what you're saying there too, with like taking from what already exists, because we are like, this is a very experimental time for the immersive and interactive world. And in a good way that like means there's like, yeah, there's no rules and people can do whatever they want and create their own language out of it. And in a bad way, it's just you have to try extra hard to find what is like universal. And there's certain things that already exist out there that you can pull from. And I think Moment Factory, one of those things that I think they did recently was like the drive-in experience. I thought that was really cool that they took a drive-in theater, movie theater, like that is, those things are becoming really popular right now, of course. But they created a light and sound installation all around it. And it's just adapting what they already know how to do into something else that's been around for decades. Yeah, I think those are the kind of things, once you get your head out of the tech, you're kind of like, okay, well, like, how can I communicate this message to a wider audience and put it in new perspective? That's really awesome, though. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, I'm sorry about my technical problems.
Oh, no problem. We're all dealing with the situation at hand, and that's kind of one of the beauties to it. And you find little moments. We just went into a storytelling mode and said hi and hello to everybody again. So.
Hey, hi Harvey. There's someone there that I know.
Yeah.
Need to answer your email, by the way.
Well, I'll post some of the videos that you brought up in your presentation that are on your site for everybody to check out. And I really appreciate you for taking the time today. And thank you everybody who came out today.
Can I actually ask the last question real quick?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious about your past and how you got to where you are right now.
So I studied communications, but in my university, communication was more focused into radio, into being a radio, how do you say, like a commentarist, like a entertainer. And also I kind of learned how to edit video. And when I finished university, I was really kind of like kind of screwed, because I said, like, damn, I didn't learn anything. I just learned how to edit a video. And that's kind of like my most basic knowledge of working. And I mean, I like the technology since a long time. But no one showed me the path. Like, and my classes of technology in my school were like PowerPoint, Excel, and at that time that were my classes of technology. And then I wanted to become a DJ, and then I went to Barcelona, and somehow I enrolled into this university where they have this kind of sound program, but it turns out that the program, it was not a sound program, it was kind of like a digital art program. And one of my teachers was a person who invented a table called the rack table, who was used by Björk in one of their concerts. And when I arrived there, so there was this math professor, putting all these cables and, like all this camera, and we're talking about 2006, 2005, and, like putting all these elements into the table and lighting up the table and making all these real-time graphics. And it was blowing my mind. And I was just dropping all of the DJ stuff and saying, like, why should I become a DJ if that's the future? Like, that's kind of the thing that should exist. Like, it didn't exist technology as we exist today, as for example, as an advertising way. Like, it was not a business at that time. It was just pure art, pure experimental stuff. And after that, that was kind of like my path into, getting immersed in Barcelona. Then I came back to Mexico. I met one of my partners who used to, have this big company making multimedia stuff. And he was very bored about doing all this kind of like work for brands. And then kind of like got together, and that's how it started somehow. So yeah, so that's kind of like the background, and mostly my background, it's like self-taught way of learning things. Like in my case, I have a daughter of 2 years and a half, and after she got to sleep, or I put my sleep, or my wife put her to sleep, and I'm like very drive into learning stuff, and then I put in my computer and I start to lay, it's okay, what I'm going to learn today. Okay, I want to learn to do these things, and then I make some art for myself, and then I push these kind of processes into new technologies to my team with tech, so they are better for me into programming. So I'm not a programmer, I know the basic stuff, but they're way more better developers than me. So that's kind of like the stuff.
Out of curiosity, what language are they programming in?
Oh, well, most of the software that we use, we're using Touch Designer, we're using BBB, so C#, or if they're using Unity, or Python if they're using Touch Designer, or C++ if they're using Unreal. So they're kind of like different languages. So, or if they're working with databases, so PHP, or they're making a website or a mobile device, so different type of languages depending on the type of stuff that we're doing.
Got it. And how many people are on your team?
So COVID or pre-COVID.
Right?
So after COVID, so we're around 80, 90, something like that.
80, 90?
Yes, because
Oh,
most of the team, they so that 89 team, that spectrum, they are people that work in projects, and they are like another 70 people that they are like the fixed kind of like base. So we're a lot basically. So yes, we're a lot of people in that in the studio. Yes.
Wow, okay. Thank you.
Well, I think that wraps it up. If nobody has any more questions, and I appreciate you guys all for coming out. Josue, thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you guys.
this is awesome.
Thank you guys. I hope you like it, and see you soon. Harvey, see you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Take care.
All right. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.